See, there's some additional little LEDs in there. Alright, so those are just a few different sounds. Oops. Sorry, I didn't mean to turn that on again yet. So this is the Davinium Customs Ancient Wyvern Lightsaber. And the Wyvern is just sort of this overall design here. I think they've done a few different pommels for it, but it has this flared emitter at the top, kind of this classic profile overall thin neck design, and the etchings and sort of the weathering, sort of the ancient look of this particular hilt is why this was offered on the Davinium Customs website as the Ancient Wyvern, I suppose. So really, really cool saber. So Davinium Customs is out of Canada, and you know, they make some different hilts. They make Wyvern. They've made a few other sort of, you know, like standard designs where they've customized it sort of beyond their standard design. And then they also make totally custom, like one-of-one hilts too. So that's kind of neat. Now, I do like weathering, and I also like the etching of this hilt. So I'm not sure what you call this pattern. I think of it sort of, you know, it's very angular. There's sort of triangles and arrows, and just, you know, looks like maybe a sort of a design of an ancient people somewhere. It also looks a little bit like fingerprints to me in a way, except maybe a little more angular. Let's see if we can. See, check that out. That's pretty sweet. So in this hilt, the etching is concentrated in this grip section here. So we've got the grip section with the kind of higher parts here, and then a few sort of more recessed areas. The recessed areas are smooth, and they don't have the etching pattern, but they do have some of the weathering. And so you got kind of this darkness added near the edges that makes them look, you know, like they're even deeper than they actually are. So that's a nice touch. Now, toward the top of the hilt, we have some weathering in the emitter section here. Kind of that, you know, tarnished, blackening, that type of thing, whatever you'd like to call that type of weathering. Used in battle. Oops, sorry. No, that's the wrong side to turn it off. All right. And the top of the hilt, so we've got another kind of classic design piece here. These little circular kind of cutout things here. By the way, I think there's like a motion kind of detecting thing with this hilt, and so that's why it's turning on like that. We've got really nice deep windows in the emitter here, and they've got that classic stadium shape to them, or, you know, sort of Death Star corridor pattern. It's familiar to a lot of people. But then what's interesting is this sort of bell-shaped emitter, flared emitter, it actually has sort of like two steps to it in a way. So it's pretty deep kind of blade seating right here. So this is how much, you know, it takes for you to seat the blade into the hilt. But you have kind of this big step here, and then one above that. And so you have like lots of nice detailing to that, especially when you get to these windows where they're sort of like these multi-level windows. Actually, it's technically 3 steps now that I'm looking at it. So 1, 2, 3, if you want to call them that. So here is the thin neck part. So, you know, that means you can use that. You can kind of maybe put some fingers there if you want, or finger for kind of control, that type of thing. grip section we went over already, and this pommel is real nice. So it's a notch design, as you can see, sort of a gear shape to it. And then there's the sound vents on the bottom. And they're also sort of little ovalish cutouts. And then the switches on this hilt. So there's two. We've got the activation switch, and then on the other side there's the auxiliary switch to rotate the sound fonts and to activate different effects like the blaster bolt deflect or the blade lockup or whatever. And these are some kind of low profile brass switches. So that's pretty cool. Very neat design overall. I love the classic look of it, very much a sort of original trilogy vibe, although this particular one has more of the ancient vibe to it because of the weathering and then kind of that patterning, that etched patterning rather in the bottom part of the hilt here. Now this is equipped with Profi board. Let's just take a look at the inside of the hilt. So you can see it splits in the middle. So that gives you pretty easy access to the chassis, the battery, and all that. There's the board. There's the battery, speaker, all your basics. And so it has this kind of design where you can access it from the middle, which is, pretty convenient. Now the pommel is removable too. This hilt does have a pretty kind of slim design, sort of a thin design to it, so that makes it quite comfortable. It is comfortable to have these kind of recessed parts, you can kind of put your fingers in there, and then it does also still have that sort of depth to it, because of how it's weathered. Now the name Wyvern, that's actually a serpent-like creature, like a mythical creature. Sometimes it's called sort of a dragon with two legs, I guess. A lot of dragons will have more than two legs. So that's the inspiration for the name. But yeah, very solid design, and the hilt it measures 10 inches long too, so that's it's sort of like a Goldilocks length for a hilt. It's not a super long hilt, but it's also not short. It's kind of right in the middle there. But a very cool design, and I like seeing the different sort of one-off things that Davinium Customs does with their hilts. Just even this patterning here with the acid etching. But they also do a lot of other cool creative things that way. So feel free to check them out. I think I've covered most of what I wanted to in here, but this has been a look at the Davinium Customs, the Ancient Wyvern lightsaber, and it's an original design, but yeah, here it is.